Hey guys, Julian here, and today I'm going to be showing you how to make Afterlife style melodic techno. So, as usual, you get the project file and samples of MIDI and presets, all that kind of stuff from this video in the description. And if you're a patron on my Patreon, check there because it'll be available shortly. Before this video starts, I also want to let you guys know I just dropped some merch actually for the first time since starting my YouTube channel. I got the link at the top of the description so you can check it out. If you want to support me, it's a really great way to do it, and they're kind of cool shirts. So yeah, let's begin. So, we're at 122 BPM. This is a loop you heard in the intro. The first sound we have here is the lead, which sounds like this. So, the way that I made this lead is actually pretty simple with the notes. You can see it's just kind of droning on this F here. It's playing like F, and then it's going up an octave. Pretty simple stuff, but you can hear what's happening here is when you play this like with the bass line. You can see when the bass goes down to that C sharp there, and then the lead stays on the F, it gets like this really nice kind of like cohesiveness in the music because they're kind of working together. You know, you're not just doing everything independently, but by having this lead just doing one very specific thing throughout the track, it can kind of play off of the other instruments, and you can have a more cohesive track because everything is going to be kind of working together to make it so. So then for the sound on this one, I made this using Operator, and I'm going to turn off all these effects and just kind of reverse engineer this for you. So here's what it sounds like just coming straight out of Operator here. So you can hear, this is just a really basic saw wave pluck. You can see I just have a saw wave here. I've got a little bit of a sine wave with that as well, doing a small amount of FM, and then it's just going into a low pass filter with an envelope on it. Really simple. Just like a simple saw pluck. After that, we have this amp, which sounds like this. So you can hear this is kind of taking it and blowing it out, making it super distorted. This isn't really the sound we want, but this is kind of working together with the next thing, which is this resonator, which sounds like this. So you can hear the resonator is giving it this really cool sort of futuristic, like metallic sort of texture. You can see I've got a really short decay. It's on the A mode, and then I've got this on F, and then we have an F minor chord here because we got +3, +3, and then +7, and +7. And yeah, so the reason why we need the amp here is because you can hear if I turn it off, just the pluck going into the resonator doesn't really sound that fat and that nice. When we add the amp before it, it gives it a lot more stuff to work with, so the lead sounds really cool then when we put it through the resonator. So after that, we have this echo, which sounds like this. You can hear it's on dotted eighth notes. It's just giving it a little bit more rhythm and kind of some more space. After that, we have a little bit of reverb, which sounds like this. So same thing there, just giving it a bit more space, kind of making it sound a little bit more like epic and cinematic, if I will. After that, we have the Haas effect. And so what the Haas effect does is, if you don't know, it's just basically this effect that widens the stereo image. What you do is you take the left ear and the right ear and you split them so you just have one and the other, and then you take one of them and delay it slightly forward. And by doing this, what happens is you get this really wide stereo image because the one of the ears, let's just say, in this case I use the left ear, the left ear is playing a few milliseconds after the right ear, and thus you're getting a really wide stereo image as a result of it, but really, you're just hearing the same thing twice. So yeah, so the way I did this here, here's what it sounds like. You can hear when I turn it off and then turn it on, it makes it so much wider. But the way I did this here was using this audio effect track. So what we have here is we have a right chain and a left chain. And on the left chain, I have the simple delay. So what I've done here is you can see I've got the dry wet all the way up. We have no feedback. This isn't doing like a long, delay. This is just giving us the original sound, but a little bit after when it originally happened. And then you can see I have the ears linked, so it's mono. And then we have this on the time setting. So anywhere between like 10 and 50 milliseconds works. Anything over that, like if we go up to like, you can hear it starts to get a little bit too obvious that it's delay. That is that, and then the last thing we have on here is just this EQ8, which sounds like this. So you can hear it's kind of just like cutting out that low end, cutting out a little bit of the muddy stuff around like the low mids, and then doing a little bit of a high end boost as well. This is just kind of like some extra polish to kind of bring this into the mix, and that is it for the lead. So the next sound we have here is the bass, which sounds like this. So I already showed you the MIDI, but you can see this is just playing this little thing where it's doing like this kind of bouncy pattern. It's going from F down to C sharp. Pretty standard, sort of like F minor sort of fare. And then you can see I've got those notes at the end. So yeah, pretty simple little pattern. This is kind of playing like the chord progression here. And yeah, and then for the sound on this one, I have this little sort of like saw wave pluck. So you can see we just have a saw wave going into a low pass filter. This is analog here. The low pass has a bit of an envelope on it. And that is actually it for inside of analog. After that, we just have a bit of chorus, just kind of giving it some more space and a little bit more dimension. Here's without it. And then with it, so you can hear it just kind of helps to bring it to life a little bit more and make it less of just like a dry synth sound. After that, we have a bit of echo. You can see it's just doing 16th notes, giving it a bit more rhythm. And yeah, making it a little bit more interesting. Then we just have a little bit of reverb. You can see I've just got the decay time pretty short. You can hear this helps to kind of give it a bit more space as well. Then we just have the saturator kind of beefing it up. And you can see I've got the drive up and I've got the bass frequency up as well. And yeah, it's just making it sound a bit fatter. Here's without it. And then with it. So really beefs it up. And then the last thing we have on here is actually this EQ8. And with this, I'm cutting out the lawn. And the reason for this is because actually, after this, I'm going to show you, we have basically kind of a weird situation going on here. So we have a bass line, obviously, but what's actually playing the bass is the kick here. You can hear after this, we have this big 808 kick. And so what I've done here is I basically have the kick doing the low end, which is pretty standard in a lot of these kind of melodic techno tracks. And then again, the bass line is still in here, but they're not clashing. And then the bass line is just there to kind of like, you know, still hear the notes. And I feel like it does round out the track. Like if I turn it off, I feel like it's missing something. But the actual like deep sub frequencies here are coming from the kick. And that's why I'm cutting out the lawn on that. So then the next thing we have here is the kick, which sounds like this. And it's pretty simple. It's just like this sort of big 808 kick. Here's the original sample. Yeah, pretty standard stuff. You can see I've got it tuned a bit, and then we've got a little bit of drum bus on here, just kind of beefing it up. Here's without it. And then with it, since this is doing like those deep sub frequencies here, I want to make sure it was like really, really fat sounding. You can see I have the boom on there as well. It's tuned to F. And yeah, so then I have the kick and the bass in a group together because they are very like close together sonically, so it helps to kind of group them together and do a bit of group processing to make them more cohesive. So what I have here is just a bit of drum bus. Here's without it. And then with it. So you can hear it just kind of takes these two and helps to glue them together a little bit more. Again, this is a little bit of a weird relationship here because the bass line isn't really doing like the deep bass. The kick is. So it really helps to have something like this that kind of gels these together and gives them a little bit more texture together. And yeah, that is it for the kick and the bass. The next thing that we have here is this little FM bell sound, which sounds like this. So I made this using Operator. It's actually pretty simple. Basically what it is you can see, I just have two sine waves doing some FM here. The second one is an octave up, and they both have like a pretty short little envelope. And then after that, the only other thing we actually have going on in here, an Operator, is just a little bit of a pitch envelope. So here's what it sounds like just an Operator. You can hear it's just like a simple sort of like FM sine wave pluck. But then after that, what we have is this erosion, which sounds like this. And so you can hear this is what gives it the kind of like bell sound. Like, if you play in the lower ranges, you can still hear that it's like a sine wave pluck, but when we play it up high, you can hear it. This is what's giving it that like metallic kind of bell sound. So yeah, you can see I've got the amount all the way up on that, and that is the erosion. The last thing we have on here is just a little bit of echo, just doing some eighth notes. Pretty standard stuff, and that is it for the little FM bell. After that, we have this rim shot, which sounds like this. So this is the type of like rim you hear in a lot of like Tale of Us tracks and a lot of other stuff that releases on Afterlife. But you can hear it's doing like this kind of, I like to call it like the burial pattern, where it's like it hits on this too, and then it hits on the 16th note right before the burial. Uses that pattern a lot as well. But yeah, so it's just doing that. And then for the sound on this one, you can see I've just got, yeah, this rim shot in here. Pretty standard stuff. You can see I dragged the start time forward a little bit more just to give it a little bit of attack. Then after that we have the Saturator, which you can see is just beefing this up. Here's without it. And with it, it helps to make this a bit fatter. You can see I've got the drive up and I've got the wave shaper here. And yeah, it just makes it sound like a lot bigger. After that we just have a little bit of reverb just to give it some space. That's usually something you want to do with these type of rim shots. And that is it for that. So then the next sound that we have here is this 808 rim shot, which sounds like this. So what this is it's just an 808 rim shot. I've got a little bit of delay on it. It's kind of playing in there at the end of every 2 bars. Just kind of helps to give some punctuation to the beat. Like, you hear that little rim shot and you hear it kind of like delaying and delaying and delaying. And it's kind of like a transitional element going into the next part. So the next thing that we have here is this little operator thing, which sounds like this. So this is actually some more synthesized percussion. Basically what we have going on here is it's just kind of playing like some extra stuff in there. You can hear it. It's very subtle, but it is like a nice kind of background layer. And yeah, so the way that I made this one was using operator. Like I said, all it is just some white noise going into a bandpass filter. The bandpass filter kind of shapes it, makes it more like clicky and mid-rangey. And then after that, we just have a bit of echo doing some dotted eighth notes. And yeah, it's really simple, but this is like a nice kind of background percussion layer that helps to kind of fill out the drums. So then the last thing that we have here before I show you this group are these hi-hats, which sound all together like this. So you can hear we have 3 hi-hats. We have this one, which is just doing 16 notes. This one, which is just adding in these extra little sort of hits at the end there. And then this one, which is playing on the upbeats. And yeah, these are really simple. You can see I don't have any processing on these. It's just really more about like leveling them out. Like you can hear the 16 note one is a lot quieter than this one, which is playing on the upbeats. And then this one is like even quieter because it's more of a background layer. But yeah, that is it for the hi-hats. And then what I have here is I have all this percussion grouped together. It's very similar to like the kick and the bass group. You know, it just kind of helps to make everything more cohesive. If you have all the same things or all the things that are in the same range grouped together and being processed the same, it will make them all sound a lot more together. So I have this drum bus here. Here's without it. And then with it, so you can hear like it's really helping to just bring everything up and get it all into the same range sonically, texturally, and even just like volume wise. And yeah, so with that, that is going to be it for this one. So I hope you guys enjoyed this one. As always, make sure to like this video as well as subscribe, and let me know what you think of this video in the comments. Once again, you can get the project file and the samples and MIDI and presets from this video in the description. And if you're a patron on my Patreon, check there because it will all be available there shortly. Once again, you can check out my merch all in the description. It's on the screen right now, or at the top of the description. I mean to say, once again, if you want to support me, great way to do it. And yeah, thank you so much, everybody, and I will see you tomorrow with another video.